Hello and welcome back to Vox Terra, aka Hidden Agendas. Continuing with the war in Iran as really the war on Iran as really being about oil or these underexplained, underemphasized economic interests, oil and gas, and that oil and gas industry leading us, the U.S. and the planet with it down a road of endless war and heating the planet. And this all facilitated by these one-sided media narratives and selective emphasis and a general lack of curiosity. So let's just start with this Lindsey Graham quote.
Venezuela and Iran have 31% of the world's oil reserves. We're going to have a partnership with 31% of the known reserves. This is China's nightmare. This is a good investment, and we should applaud our men and women in the military who are doing something I've never seen done before, decimating a brutal enemy in 9 days.
And there are American Republican senators saying, yeah, this is about oil, control of that oil. Well, that's explained in better detail by Antonia Juhasz, a regular Rolling Stone reporter and author of The Bush Agenda and the Tyranny of Oil, who I heard interviewed on Democracy Now!
U.S. oil interests lobbied aggressively to pursue oil on their terms in Iraq and Iran, driving the invasion of Iraq, lobbying aggressively to see a second front in the war in Iran. As I have written repeatedly about war in the Middle East, oil is a key agenda, but of course driving a country like the United States to war is never a simple thing.
And as an example, she goes on to cite changes in the Iraqi oil laws passed post-invasion, as well as changes in the Venezuelan oil law. And this seems to be kind of a template that old oil industry is pushing for.
When the U.S. invaded Iraq, one of the goals was getting the Iraqis to change their national oil law to essentially privatize the industry. Not totally, but sort of. The Iraqis wouldn't go along with it. U.S. oil companies got the type of contracts that they want, and they got into Iraq, so they did okay. But in Venezuela, right after Trump removed the president of Venezuela, within 2 weeks' time, the Venezuelans implemented a very similar new national oil law.
And for that matter, about these underemphasized moneyed interests, I was listening to a show called Freakonomics, an episode about the oil traders, and just buried within that article, an article titled "The Most Powerful People You've Never Heard of," buried in that story, underemphasized like everything is, and it wasn't even put out as a big shocker, is that oil-rich Qatar and oil traders, I believe the company was Vital, funded the anti-Gaddafi rebels in Libya. And I cross-referenced that and saw that confirmed in another news outlet called Declassified UK. Now, tie in all this oil industry intrigue that's underemphasized in our media with Trump then using taxpayer money to stop wind energy projects, in addition to funding this war, roll back fuel efficiency standards, stop electric vehicles, and all that benefits the oil industry, oil and gas. And now if you're a fellow American and you're still thinking in terms of what's our oil industry, our interests, put it in context of record level high greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, and put that in context with the unraveling climate. 2026 U.S. Southwest spring heat waves, historic, with historic winter storms hitting the Old South, historic flooding in Hawaii, and historic rains and floods in Afghanistan. The whole thing just unraveling. Global warming set in motion by the excessive burning of fossil fuels. And as I've explained in the past, these intense rains and intense dries and intense heats, that's all the simple physics, that's all the simple consequences of a heating planet. And the same way as the media just has these one-sided narratives vilifying these nations that we, in quote, target, well, they got a one-sided narrative in the sense that they don't tie back these extreme weather events to climate change. They don't tie back climate change to fossil fuels, except in a very tiny little here and there way. And put all this subservience and promotion of those industries and tie that back to Trump's quote about bombing them back to the Stone Age.
We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
Well, I hope you found those some interesting citations, some good food for thought. And if you did, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. You're clicking that notification bell so you know when I'm putting up a new video. You are checking out and maybe even picking up a t-shirt at revolutionarygraphics.org. Thank you to my 2 patrons at Patreon, Bella Lagrissi and Environmental Coffee House. And as always, until next time, peace be with you.